The old library, nestled like a warm secret between the bustling bakery and the sleepy antique shop on Elm Street, was Ilara's sanctuary. And for the past 7 years, her domain. From the moment she'd first walked through its heavy oak doors as a wide-eyed intern, she'd felt a profound sense of belonging, as if the very dust motes dancing in the sunbeams were whispering her name. Now, as head librarian, she knew every creaking floorboard, every hidden nook, every story held within its towering shelves. Autumn in Oak Haven was a masterpiece painted in fiery reds and burnished golds, and the library, with its grand arched windows, offered a front-row seat to the spectacle. Today, a soft, persistent rain pattered against the glass, making the interior feel even cozier, a haven of quiet contemplation. The scent of old paper, polished wood, and the faint, comforting aroma of Mrs. Henderson's freshly baked apple pie, wafting from next door, mingled in the air. Ilara hummed softly as she reshelved a stack of well-loved novels, her fingers tracing the worn spines. Her glasses, perched on the tip of her nose, often slipped, a familiar and endearing habit she barely noticed anymore. Her auburn hair, usually corralled into a sensible braid, had a few rebellious tendrils escaping around her face, framing eyes the color of warm honey. It was a Tuesday afternoon, typically a quiet time. The school rush had passed, and the evening readers hadn't yet arrived. Ilara cherished these lulls. They allowed her to lose herself in the rhythm of the library, to listen to the gentle sighs of the building, to sketch the intricate patterns of the rain on the window panes in her small leather-bound notebook, hidden beneath the counter. She loved to draw, a private passion she rarely shared, finding beauty in the everyday and the overlooked. A small chime above the main door announced a new arrival, pulling Ilara from her reverie. She looked up, expecting perhaps old Mr. Finch returning his gardening books, or young Lily May looking for another fairy tale. Instead, a man stood framed in the doorway, momentarily silhouetted against the gray drizzle outside. He was tall, with broad shoulders that strained slightly against the fabric of his dark, practical coat. Raindrops clung to the tips of his dark, slightly unruly hair, and his hands, long-fingered and strong-looking, held a dripping umbrella. He paused, taking in the vast, echoing space of the main hall, his gaze sweeping over the towering shelves, the polished reading tables, and finally, settling on Ilara. A strange flutter, soft and unexpected, stirred in Ilara's chest. Newcomers to Oak Haven were rare, and a man like this was even rarer. He wasn't the type one usually saw browsing the local grocery store or sipping coffee at the daily grind. There was an air about him, a quiet intensity, a thoughtful stillness, that intrigued her instantly. He offered a small, hesitant smile that softened the angles of his face and revealed a slight dimple just above his jawline. "Excuse me," he said, his voice a low, pleasant rumble that carried easily across the quiet room. "Is this the Oak Haven Public Library?" Ilara pushed her glasses up her nose, a faint blush warming her cheeks. "Yes, it is," she replied, her voice a little breathier than usual. "Welcome. Can I help you find something?" He stepped further inside, closing the umbrella with a practiced snap and placing it carefully in the stand by the door. As he walked towards the main desk, Ilara noticed the way his dark blue eyes took everything in, not just a cursory glance, but a deep, observant look, as if he were cataloging every detail. He wore a simple, well-worn sweater beneath his coat, and his jeans were faded in all the right places. He didn't look like a tourist, more like someone who was here to stay, at least for a while. "I hope I'm not disturbing you," he said, reaching the counter. Up close, he was even more striking. There was a faint scar near his left eyebrow, a tiny imperfection that only added to his rugged charm. "I'm Liam Sterling. I've just moved to Oak Haven for a project, and I'm in desperate need of some local history resources, specifically anything on the old Hawthorne estate." Ilara's eyebrows lifted in surprise. The Hawthorne estate was a grand, dilapidated mansion on the edge of town, shrouded in local legends, and long since abandoned. Most people only dared to look at it from a distance, or whispered stories about its eccentric former occupants. "The Hawthorne estate?" she echoed, a spark of professional interest overriding her initial shyness. "That's quite a project. What brings you to it?" Liam chuckled, a warm, genuine sound. "I'm an architect. Historic preservation, specifically. I've been commissioned to oversee its restoration. It's a beautiful mess, to be honest, and I need to understand its past before I can even begin to think about its future. He extended a hand across the counter. It's lovely to meet you. His hand was warm and firm as Alara shook it. Alara Vance, and it's lovely to meet you too, Liam. She tried to sound professional, but her heart was doing a rather unprofessional little dance. The Hawthorne Estate. You've certainly picked the most challenging and perhaps the most rewarding building in Oakhaven. We have a few things here, some old town records, a local history collection, and a rather extensive archive of Oakhaven families. The Hawthorns were quite prominent. She gestured towards the back of the library. Follow me. It's not a digital catalog for everything, I'm afraid. Much of our local history is still analog. She offered a wry smile. But I know where everything is. As she led him through the hushed aisles, past shelves groaning with biographies and travelogues, she could feel his presence beside her, a subtle warmth in the cool air of the library. He walked with a quiet grace, his gaze still sweeping over the books, occasionally pausing to read a spine. This library is magnificent, he murmured, his voice laced with genuine appreciation. The light through those windows, it's breathtaking, and the smell, it's like stepping into a story. Alara felt a flush of pride. It is, isn't it? It's been here for over 100 years. The original benefactor, a Miss Eleanor Vance, was my great-great-aunt. The family connection is part of why I love it so much. She didn't mention the drawing she'd done of the library's grand staircase, bathed in the morning light, a piece she considered her finest. They reached a secluded corner, bathed in the soft glow of a floor lamp. Here we are, she said, pulling a rolling ladder towards a high shelf. The Oakhaven Chronicles. These are bound volumes of the Old Town newspaper, going back to the late 1800s. And over here, she gestured to another shelf, we have the family histories. The Hawthorns are quite well documented, though some of it might be more gossip than fact. She winked playfully. Liam's eyes lit up. This is perfect, Alara. More than I could have hoped for, thank you. He looked at the heavy leather-bound volumes with the reverence of a scholar. I could spend weeks in here. You're welcome to, she said, feeling a warmth spread through her. We have comfortable chairs and even a coffee machine in the staff room, though it's not exactly gourmet. He laughed again, and the sound was like the rustling of autumn leaves, crisp and inviting. Coffee machines sounds like luxury right now. I've been running on instant for days, amidst boxes and dusty blueprints. He picked up one of the heavy chronicles, his fingers gently tracing the faded gold lettering. This is incredible. To think of all the lives, all the stories, held within these pages. Alara found herself watching him, captivated. It wasn't just his striking appearance, but the thoughtful way he spoke, the genuine wonder in his eyes. He wasn't just here for research, he genuinely seemed to appreciate the history, the stories behind the bricks and mortar. I'll leave you to it, she said, reminding herself of her duties. If you need anything at all, just call, or if you get lost in the archives, it happens. He nodded, already engrossed, but looked up to offer her another of his captivating smiles. Thank you, Alara, truly. This is a treasure trove. Alara returned to the front desk, her heart still doing its little dance. She tried to focus on cataloging new arrivals, but her mind kept drifting to the quiet corner where Liam Sterling was now immersed in the past. She found herself glancing up every few minutes, just to confirm he was still there, a solid, intriguing presence in her tranquil library. He stayed for hours, only emerging once to ask for directions to the restrooms, and again to inquire about a local cafe for dinner. Alara recommended the Daily Grind, mentioning their excellent clam chowder. He thanked her, his eyes warm, and promised to return the next day. As the library's closing time approached, he finally gathered his notes, carefully reshelving the heavy volumes with a respect that pleased Alara immensely. He stopped at her desk, a stack of books in his arms, local architectural history, a biography of the Hawthorne family, and a curious volume on Oakhaven's folklore. I'm going to borrow these if I may, he said. I've barely scratched the surface, but I have a feeling this is going to be a long-term relationship with your library, Alara. We're happy to have you, she replied, her fingers flying over the keyboard to check out his books. She paused, looking at the folklore book. Interested in our local ghost stories? He grinned. Every old house has them, doesn't it? And the Hawthorne estate has more than its fair share. I figure it's good to know what kind of spirits I'll be sharing the place with. Elara laughed, a light, genuine sound. Well, if you hear any whispers under the eaves, you'll know why. The phrase, uttered without thought, felt surprisingly fitting, a little secret shared between them. He paused, his gaze lingering on her, a thoughtful expression on his face. Whispers under the eaves? He repeated softly, as if savoring the words. I'll keep that in mind. He picked up his umbrella and, with a final warm smile, stepped out into the now darkened, still drizzly street. The library felt suddenly empty, the quiet heavier than before. Elara walked through the aisles, turning off lights, checking windows. She paused in the corner where Liam had been, her fingers brushing against the still warm surface of the table. A faint scent of rain and a subtle, pleasant cologne lingered in the air. She found herself sketching that evening, not the usual architectural details or autumn leaves, but a quick, almost unconscious portrait of a man with thoughtful eyes and a gentle smile, his dark hair a little damp from the rain. She quickly tucked the sketch away, a faint blush returning to her cheeks. The next morning, Elara arrived early, the library still steeped in the cool, quiet dawn light. She made herself a cup of tea, the comforting ritual a balm. She found herself wondering if Liam would truly return. It wasn't uncommon for people to come in for specific research and then vanish back into their own worlds. But something about Liam Sterling felt different. True to his word, he appeared shortly after opening, looking less rumpled than the day before, his hair neatly combed, though still with a hint of natural wave. He carried a small portfolio case and a thermos of coffee. Morning, Elara, he said, his smile immediate and warm. I hope I'm not too early. Never too early for stories, she replied, a genuine smile lighting her face. Coffee smells good. It's a peace offering, he said, placing the thermos on the counter. My attempt at gourmet. I owed you one after you pointed me to the chowder yesterday. It was excellent. He poured a steaming cup and pushed it towards her. Oh, you didn't have to, Elara protested, but gratefully accepted the mug. The coffee was strong and rich, a welcome change from the library's instant brew. Thank you, Liam. This is wonderful. He settled back into his corner, pulling out blueprints and a laptop, interspersed with the library books he'd borrowed. He worked diligently, making notes, occasionally flipping through a historical volume. Elara, from her vantage point at the front desk, found herself observing him again. He had a way of concentrating that was almost meditative, completely absorbed in his task. Yet, he wasn't oblivious. He would occasionally look up, catch her eye, and offer a small, polite smile before returning to his work. Over the next few days, Liam became a quiet, constant presence in the library. He arrived early, left late, and always brought a thermos of coffee, often sharing a cup with Elara. Their conversations grew longer, more comfortable. They discussed the Hawthorne estate, its hidden passages, the rumored ghost of a heartbroken bride. They talked about books, about Oakhaven's quirks, about the challenges of preserving history in a modern world. Elara learned that Liam had grown up in a bustling city, but had always found solace in old buildings, in the stories they held. He spoke passionately about the layers of history, the craftsmanship of forgotten eras, and the responsibility he felt to honor them. He in turn discovered Elara's deep affection for Oakhaven, her love for the library, and her quiet, perceptive nature. One crisp afternoon, with the sun finally breaking through the clouds, painting the library in warm gold, Liam looked up from a particularly dense volume on local masonry techniques. Elara, he said, pushing his glasses up his nose, a habit she'd noticed he shared with her. You mentioned your great-great Eleanor Vance was the library's benefactor. Do you know much about her? Elara smiled. A fair bit. She was quite a character for her time, independent, never married, traveled extensively, and then decided to settle back in Oakhaven and dedicate her considerable inheritance to building this place. She believed in the power of stories and the importance of accessible knowledge for everyone. She sounds remarkable, Liam mused. I've been reading about the library's original construction in some of these old records. It's an incredibly solid structure, beautifully designed, and there are some architectural elements that are quite unique, almost whimsical, for a public building of that era. There's a particular stained glass window in the reading room, the one depicting the Oakhaven oak tree. It's exquisite. Do you know who designed it, oak tree? Elara's eyes softened as she looked towards the window he mentioned. It was her favorite, a cascade of jewel-toned glass that shimmered with the changing light. I do, actually. It was Eleanor herself. She had a passion for art and design. She studied in Paris for a time, apparently. Some say she even sketched the initial designs for the library building itself, though she hired a well-known architect to finalize them. Liam looked genuinely surprised. She did? That's fascinating. It explains a lot. There's a distinct hand in some of the decorative details. A feminine touch, almost. I wouldn't have expected it from the general style of the period. He paused, then looked at Elara, a thoughtful glint in his eyes. You know, Elara, you have a very similar appreciation for detail, and you seem to notice things others miss. Elara felt a blush creep up her neck. She rarely received such direct compliments, especially about her observational skills, which she usually kept to herself. I suppose I do, she mumbled, suddenly feeling a little exposed. Do you draw, Elara? Liam asked, his voice gentle, as if sensing her discomfort. Her heart gave a little jolt. How could he have known? She'd been so careful to keep her sketches hidden. Sometimes, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. He smiled, a knowing, kind smile. I had a feeling. There's an artist's eye in the way you describe things, the way you notice the light, the way you spoke about your aunt's stained glass. You have a way of seeing the beauty in the quiet corners of the world. He didn't press her, simply let the question hang in the air, a silent invitation. Elara found herself wanting to show him her sketchbook, a desire that surprised her with its intensity. But she was still too shy, too accustomed to keeping that part of herself private. Well, I find inspiration in Oakhaven, she said, deflecting slightly. Liam nodded, understanding in his eyes. It's a beautiful place, isn't it? Full of hidden wonders. He looked around the library, his gaze lingering on the high ceilings, the intricate carvings on the old fireplace. I'm still discovering them. His presence in the library began to feel less like a temporary visitor and more like an integral part of its daily rhythm. Elara started looking forward to his arrival each morning, to the quiet hum of his work, to their brief, meaningful conversations over coffee. She found herself rearranging her schedule slightly to ensure she was at the main desk when he arrived, just to catch his first smile of the day. One blustery Thursday, a late autumn storm swept through Oakhaven, bringing with it fierce winds and torrential rain. The library, usually a haven of light, was cast in shadows. The power flickered, then died, plunging the vast space into a sudden, hushed darkness. A collective gasp went through the few patrons still present. Elara, however, remained calm. She knew the library's layout by heart, even in the dark. She quickly retrieved the emergency lanterns and candles from the staff room, her hands moving with practiced efficiency. Liam, who had been working in his usual corner, was already on his feet, making his way towards the main desk. Are you all right, Elara? He asked, his voice steady in the sudden quiet. I'm fine, she replied, her voice firm. Just a power outage. Happens occasionally in these old buildings. I've got lanterns. He reached her just as she lit the first lantern, its warm glow pushing back the encroaching shadows. Can I help? He offered. I'm quite good with ladders, if you need anything from higher shelves. Actually, Elara said, a small smile touching her lips, if you could help me place these lanterns around the reading room, that would be wonderful. Just enough light for people to gather their things. Together, they moved through the darkening library, the pools of lamplight chasing away the gloom. The air was charged with a different kind of quiet now, a stillness born of shared experience. The usual whispers of turning pages and hushed conversations were replaced by the gentle rustle of coats and the soft murmur of patrons, thanking Elara as they gathered their belongings. As the last patron departed, the library felt vast and empty, lit only by the scattered lanterns. Rain lashed against the windows, and the wind howled like a mournful spirit. Elara and Liam stood by the main desk, the warm light of a single lantern illuminating their faces. Well, Elara said, wrapping her arms around herself, feeling a sudden chill despite the lanterns. That was an adventure. Liam looked around the flickering, shadowy space, a thoughtful expression on his face. It's beautiful though, isn't it? The library, in this light, it feels even more alive, more ancient. He turned to her, his dark eyes reflecting the lamplight. Are you going to be all right here alone till the power comes back? Oh, I'm used to it, Alara assured him, though a part of her secretly relished his concern. I usually just wait it out or head home if it looks like it'll be a while. It's pretty cozy when it's like this. He hesitated, then said, I could stay if you'd like, just until it comes back on or until you're ready to leave. I don't mind. I've still got some notes I could go over, and it's certainly atmospheric. The offer, so simple and genuine, warmed Alara more than the strongest coffee. The thought of being alone in the vast, dark library, listening to the storm, had suddenly felt a little daunting. But with Liam, the prospect felt comforting, even inviting. Are you sure? She asked, a tentative smile playing on her lips. You don't have to. I'm sure, he said, his smile gentle. Besides, I'm intrigued by your whispers under the eaves. This seems like the perfect night to listen for them. Alara's heart gave another flutter. The phrase, which had felt like a casual, throwaway comment, now held a new, deeper meaning. It was their secret, a shared understanding. All right then, she said, her voice soft. Would you like another cup of my not-so-gourmet coffee? Or perhaps I have some herbal tea somewhere. Coffee would be perfect, he replied, settling back into one of the armchairs near the main desk, illuminated by the lantern's soft glow. And perhaps you could tell me more about Eleanor Vance. Or even better, tell me about the ghost of the heartbroken bride at Hawthorne Estate. I might need some tips for cohabitation. Alara laughed, the sound bright and clear in the quiet, lantern-lit library. The storm outside raged, but inside, a different kind of warmth began to bloom, quiet and steady, like the flame of a candle pushing back the dark. The library, her sanctuary, felt even more so now, imbued with a new kind of magic, a soft anticipation under the flickering light. Tonight, amidst the whispers of the storm, perhaps other whispers would begin to form, unspoken and true. Alara's laughter echoed, a cascade of pure delight. Liam, caught in the warmth of it, felt a smile spread across his own face, genuine and unforced. Just thinking ahead, he clarified, his voice a soft murmur, rich with amusement. It's a big step sharing a home. It certainly is, Alara agreed, her eyes sparkling. Though I suppose we're just discussing a temporary arrangement, for the duration of the storm and the roof. She gestured vaguely upwards. Temporary arrangements have a way of becoming rather permanent, sometimes, Liam mused, his gaze lingering on her face. The flicker of the lantern light played across her features, highlighting the gentle curve of her cheek, the intelligent depths of her eyes. He felt a peculiar sense of peace settling over him, an unfamiliar quiet hum beneath the usual thrum of his thoughts. Alara's smile softened. Perhaps, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. For now, it's just two people, a lot of books, and a very persistent storm. She gestured to the comfortable armchair opposite the one he occupied. Please, make yourself at home. I can fetch some tea, or perhaps some hot chocolate. I have a surprisingly good stash for emergency comfort. Hot chocolate sounds perfect, Liam said, settling deeper into the chair, the leather creaking softly in protest before molding to his form. And thank you, Alara. Truly, you've been a lifesaver and a most gracious host. As Alara rose, her movements graceful and unhurried, Liam watched her. She moved with an innate quietness, as if accustomed to not disturbing the slumbering stories around her. He noticed the way her fingers brushed a stack of books as she passed, a subtle, almost unconscious gesture of affection. This library wasn't just her workplace. It was an extension of her soul. She disappeared into a small adjoining room, presumably a staff kitchen or a private annex. Liam took the opportunity to truly absorb his surroundings. The shelves soared to the ceiling, filled to bursting with every imaginable genre. Old leather-bound volumes sat beside brightly jacketed new releases. A globe stood in one corner, its brass stand gleaming faintly. An antique telescope pointed towards a high window, currently obscured by rain. This wasn't just a collection, it was a curated world, a testament to curiosity and quiet passion. He found himself imagining how he might design a space like this, how the light would fall, how the flow would feel. He realized with a jolt that he was already thinking about why very space, even if only in his architect's mind. Elara returned a few minutes later, carrying a tray with 2 steaming mugs and a small plate of shortbread biscuits. The aroma of rich chocolate and a hint of vanilla wafted through the air, instantly comforting. "These are my grandmother's recipe," she offered, pushing the plate towards him as she set the mugs down on a small side table between them. "For times of extreme weather, or extreme need of comfort." Liam took a biscuit, its buttery scent promising warmth. "Your grandmother sounds like a wise woman." He took a sip of the hot chocolate. It was exquisite, creamy and rich, with just the right amount of sweetness. "This is incredible, Elara, a true antidote to the storm." "She was," Elara smiled, taking her own mug. "She taught me the importance of a good story, a warm drink, and a quiet moment. She always said that the best conversations happen when the world outside is too busy to listen." "I think she might be right," Liam agreed, feeling the truth of her words settle deep within him. He found himself wanting to share something, to reciprocate the warmth she offered. "My own grandmother. She was the one who first put a pencil in my hand. Not to draw pictures but to sketch out ideas. She built her own house, brick by brick, after my grandfather passed. She always told me, Liam, a home isn't just walls and a roof. It's a feeling. It's where your heart breathes easiest." Elara listened, her gaze soft and attentive. "That's beautiful. I can see her influence in your work then. The way you talk about spaces, it's not just about structure, it's about connection, about life unfolding within them." Liam felt a warmth spread through him, a different kind than the hot chocolate. It was the warmth of being truly seen, truly understood. "You get it," he said, a touch of wonder in his voice. "Most people just see the blueprints, the steel, the concrete. They don't see the life that will happen there, the laughter, the quiet evenings, the morning light hitting a certain corner just so." He paused, looking around Elara's library. "Like this space, you filled it with life, with stories waiting to be discovered. It's more than just a building full of books, it's a heart." Elara's cheeks flushed a delicate rose pink. That's a lovely thing to say, Liam. I've always tried to make it a place where people feel welcome, where they can find solace or adventure, depending on what they need." "And you've succeeded," he assured her. "Utterly. I felt it the moment I walked in, even before the roof decided to stage a dramatic protest." He chuckled. "Speaking of which, I should probably explain a bit more about what we're dealing with. It's not just a simple patch job, unfortunately. The structural integrity of that section of the roof beam has been compromised. We'll need to replace a significant portion, reinforce the surrounding structure, and then reslate it. It's going to take a few days at least once the materials arrive and the weather clears enough for safe work." Elara's brow furrowed slightly. "A few days? Oh dear. I'd hoped it would be a quicker fix. The community relies on the library, especially the children's section, which is just below." Well, or a temporary ceiling." "I understand completely," Liam said, sensing her concern. "And I promise, we'll work as quickly and efficiently as possible. I'll bring in my best crew, but these old buildings, they require a delicate hand. Rushing it would only lead to more problems down the line." He leaned forward slightly, his voice earnest. "Means, though, that you really can't be here while the work is ongoing. It will be noisy, dusty, and frankly, unsafe. My offer still stands, Elara. You'd be more than welcome at my place. It's spacious, quiet, and thankfully has a very sturdy roof." Elara hesitated, her gaze drifting to the shelves around them. Leaving her library, even for a few days, felt like leaving a part of herself behind. But Liam was right, safety was paramount. And the thought of being in his home, under his care, was unexpectedly appealing. "It's very generous of you, Liam," she said finally, her voice soft. "Are you certain it wouldn't be too much trouble?" "Not at all," he replied, his smile warm and reassuring. "Think of it as part of my reparations for the damage caused by the universe, I suppose, for choosing my building to collapse on yours." He winked, lightening the mood. "Besides, I'm a terrible cook. Perhaps you could offer some tips on cohabitation and lights." Elara laughed again, the sound chasing away the last vestiges of her worry. "I do make a rather excellent shepherd's pie." "Sold," Liam declared, a genuine sense of relief washing over him. The thought of Elara in his home even temporarily filled him with an unexpected surge of excitement. They fell into a comfortable silence then, sipping their hot chocolate, the storm providing a steady, rhythmic backdrop to their burgeoning connection. Liam found himself studying Elara's profile, the elegant line of her neck, the way her hair, pulled back in a neat bun, still managed to escape in soft tendrils around her face. He wondered about her life, her dreams, the stories she held within her own heart. "So," Liam began, breaking the quiet, "what kind of books do you read, Elara, when you're not busy cataloging the entire world?" She turned to him, a shy smile playing on her lips. "Oh, a little bit of everything. But I have a particular fondness for historical fiction, stories that transport you to another time, another place, and show you the enduring human spirit." She gestured vaguely towards a section of shelves. "And poetry, of course. There's a certain magic in words arranged just so, to evoke a feeling, a memory." "Poetry," Liam mused. "I confess, I don't delve into it often. My world is more about lines and angles, practicalities, but I appreciate the art of it. Like architecture, in a way, taking disparate elements and arranging them into something beautiful and functional." "Exactly." Elara's eyes lit up. "It's about structure, yes, but also about emotion. A well-designed building, like a well-crafted poem, should make you feel something." They talked for what felt like hours, moving from books to architecture, from their childhoods to their quiet ambitions. Liam found himself sharing details about his work he rarely discussed with others: the frustration of battling bureaucracy, the thrill of seeing a complex design take shape, the quiet satisfaction of creating something lasting. He spoke of his love for old buildings, the stories they held in their very foundations, and his passion for blending modern functionality with historical respect. Elara, in turn, opened up about her life in the library, the joy she found in connecting people with the right book, the quiet satisfaction of a perfectly organized shelf. She spoke of her grandmother, who had instilled in her a love for stories and a deep sense of community. She shared anecdotes about eccentric patrons and the unexpected wonders she found hidden within forgotten tomes. The storm outside seemed to rage with renewed vigor, the wind howling like a lonely wolf, the rain drumming a frantic rhythm against the windows. But inside, the library felt like a cocoon, warm and safe, insulated by their voices and the growing understanding between them. Eventually, Elara noticed Liam stifling a yawn. "Oh dear," she said, glancing at a grandfather clock in the corner. It was past midnight. "I've kept you up entirely too late. You must be exhausted." "Not at all," Liam protested, though another yawn escaped him. "I haven't had a conversation like this well, I can't remember when. It's been truly wonderful, Elara." He looked at her, his gaze soft. "But you're right, we should probably try to get some rest, though rest in a library during a storm might be a novel experience." Elara smiled, her eyes twinkling. "Indeed, I have a small cot in the staff room for emergencies. It's not much, but it's dry and relatively quiet, away from the worst of the rain on the roof." She hesitated. "And there's a rather comfortable sofa in the reading nook. It's surprisingly long." Liam chuckled. "I'll take the sofa. I'm a big man. A cot might prove a tight squeeze. You take the cot, Elara. You need your sleep." "Are you sure?" she asked, a touch of concern in her voice. "Positive," he assured her. "I've slept in worse places. Construction sites, forgotten corners of old buildings. A comfortable sofa in a beautiful library is practically a 5-star hotel." Elara relented, a small grateful smile gracing her lips. "All right then, I'll just get some blankets." She returned with 2 soft wool blankets, one a deep forest green, the other a muted cream. "These are for the colder nights," she explained, handing him the green one. "They're quite warm." "Perfect," Liam said, taking the blanket. Their fingers brushed, a fleeting electric touch that sent a shiver through Elara, despite the warmth of the library. Liam noticed it too, his gaze lingering on her for a fraction longer than necessary. "The reading nook is just around that corner," Elara explained, pointing. "There's a small lamp there. I'll be in the staff room if you need anything at all." "Thank you, Elara," Liam said softly. "For everything." She nodded, a soft blush returning to her cheeks. "Good night, Liam." Good night, Alara. As she walked away, Liam watched her disappear into the shadows of the shelves. He felt a profound sense of gratitude, and something else, something new and fragile, blooming in his chest. He made his way to the reading nook. It was a cozy alcove, tucked away from the main thoroughfare, with a large, inviting sofa covered in worn velvet. A small table held a reading lamp, its soft glow illuminating a stack of books. Liam settled onto the sofa, pulling the wool blanket over him. It smelled faintly of old paper, and something else, something sweet and comforting, perhaps Ilara's subtle perfume. He lay there for a moment, listening to the relentless drumming of the rain, the distant groan of the wind. He thought of Ilara, just a few walls away, and felt a quiet happiness he hadn't known he was missing. He closed his eyes, a gentle smile on his face, and drifted into a surprisingly peaceful sleep, filled with images of soaring roofs and the soft whisper of turning pages. Wayne. Ilara lay on the narrow cot in the staff room, the storm's cacophony filling the small space. Despite the warmth of the blanket and the soft pillow, sleep eluded her. Her mind replayed the evening's conversation with Liam. His easy charm, his intelligent insights, the way his eyes crinkled at the corners when he smiled, the sincerity in his voice when he spoke of his work and his grandmother. She had always been a solitary creature, finding her deepest connections within the pages of books. Her life was orderly, predictable, and comforting in its quiet routine. She loved her library, cherished her patrons, but she hadn't realized how much she'd longed for a true connection, a conversation that went beyond surface pleasantries. Liam, with his unexpected appearance and his gentle persistence, had cracked open a window to something new, something exhilarating, and a little frightening. He saw her, truly saw her, not just as the librarian, but as Ilara. He understood her love for stories, for the unspoken language of architecture, for the quiet magic of a well-loved space. His offer to stay at his home, initially a practical solution, now felt like a profound invitation. The thought of being in his space, sharing meals, simply existing in the same rooms, sent a tremor of anticipation through her. It was a leap of faith, a departure from her carefully constructed world, but for some reason, with Liam, it didn't feel daunting. It felt right. She hugged the blanket closer, inhaling the faint scent of lavender that clung to it. Tomorrow, the storm would hopefully abate. Tomorrow, the practicalities would begin. But tonight, in the quiet darkness, with the rain as their confidante, a different kind of foundation had been laid, one built on shared laughter, understanding, and the soft, unspoken promise of more to come. The first light of dawn struggled to penetrate the storm clouds, casting a muted, pearly glow into the library. Liam woke slowly, stretching out on the surprisingly comfortable sofa. The storm had lessened its intensity, now a steady, rhythmic rain rather than a furious assault. He blinked, remembering where he was, and a soft smile touched his lips. Ilara. He sat up, running a hand through his hair. He felt surprisingly refreshed, his mind clear. The peace of the library, even with the ongoing storm, had been a balm. He stood, his joints protesting faintly, and peered around the quiet space. It was still, save for the rain. He wondered if Ilara was awake. A faint clinking sound drew his attention. He followed it, rounding the shelves, and found Ilara in the small kitchen annex. She was humming softly, her back to him, measuring coffee into a filter. The aroma was intoxicating, a welcome contrast to the damp smell of the storm. She wore a simple, soft-looking cardigan over her clothes from yesterday, and her hair was still neatly pinned, though a few more tendrils had escaped. "Good morning," Liam said softly, not wanting to startle her. Ilara jumped slightly, then turned, a warm smile blossoming on her face. "Oh, good morning, Liam. I didn't hear you get up." Her eyes were bright, a hint of sleep still lingering in their depth. "Slept like a baby," he confessed, leaning against the doorframe. "Or at least, like a very large architect on a very comfortable sofa. Coffee smells amazing." "It's my one true vice," she admitted, pouring water into the machine. "Along with a good mystery novel, I thought you might appreciate a proper cup after a night on the sofa." "You thought right," he chuckled. "You're a lifesaver, Ilara. Again." She busied herself with finding mugs, her cheeks coloring slightly at his compliment. "Well, I am the host, after all, and soon, you'll be the host." She said the last part almost to herself, a hint of nervousness in her tone. Liam moved closer, sensing her slight unease. "Still not convinced about my hospitality?" he teased gently. "No, not at all," she quickly clarified, turning to face him. It's been a very long time since I've cohabitated with anyone. My grandmother, bless her, was the last, and that was many years ago." "I understand," Liam said, his voice dropping to a softer tone. "It's a big adjustment, for both of us really. I live alone too. My place is, well, it's not quite as charming and full of stories as this. More modern, a bit minimalist, perhaps." He paused, then added, a touch of vulnerability in his voice. "Sometimes a bit too quiet." Elara looked at him then, truly looked at him, and saw a flicker of something she recognized, a shared solitude, a quiet longing. "I imagine," she murmured. "Libraries can be quiet too, but never truly empty. There's always the echo of voices, the whisper of pages turning." "Exactly," Liam agreed, a genuine smile returning to his face. "And perhaps my place needs a few more whispers, or at least some of your excellent shepherd's pie." Elara laughed, a clear, bell-like sound that filled the small kitchen. The tension that had momentarily hung between them dissipated like morning mist. "I think we can arrange that." The coffee machine finished its cycle with a soft gurgle, and Elara poured 2 steaming mugs. They stood there for a moment, sipping their coffee, the warmth spreading through them. The rain outside seemed to have settled into a steady rhythm, a gentle accompaniment to their morning. "So," Liam began, "what's the plan for today, once we're sufficiently caffeinated, of course?" "I need to assess the situation properly, make sure no other areas have been affected," Elara explained. "And then I suppose I should contact the town council, let them know the extent of the damage. They own the building, after all." "I can help with the assessment," Liam offered immediately. "I'll need to do a more thorough structural check anyway, and I can be there when you speak to the council, if you like. Sometimes having an architect on hand to explain the technical details can be helpful." Elara looked at him, a wave of relief washing over her. "Would you? That would be immensely helpful, Liam. Thank you." She truly appreciated his calm competence, his willingness to take charge of the practicalities. "Of course," he said, his gaze warm. "It's the least I can do. Plus, it gives me an excuse to spend more time in your wonderful library before it's temporarily off limits." He took another sip of coffee, then added, "And speaking of off limits, once we've sorted things here, I'll take you back to my place. We can make a list of anything you need to bring, or I can run you back here later to collect things." Elara nodded, a small flutter starting in her chest. The reality of moving into Liam's home was beginning to sink in. "That sounds like a good plan. I'll just need a few changes of clothes, my toiletries, and, well, perhaps a book or two." She smiled apologetically. Liam chuckled. "Only a book or two? I'm starting to think you might be experiencing withdrawal. Don't worry, I have a few shelves of my own, though I doubt they'll compare to this." He gestured around the library. "Mostly architectural tomes, history, a few classic novels I've meant to reread." "That's wonderful," Elara said, genuinely pleased. "Perhaps we can exchange recommendations." The thought of sharing books with him, of discussing stories, of finding common ground in the written word, filled her with a quiet joy. The morning unfolded with a sense of gentle purpose. Liam, with his practiced eye, moved through the library, carefully examining the ceiling and walls, jotting down notes in a small pad he retrieved from his soaked but still functional bag. Elara, meanwhile, began the meticulous task of covering shelves closest to the damaged area with plastic sheeting, protecting the books from potential dust and debris. They worked in companionable silence, occasionally exchanging a comment or a question. Liam would explain a technical term, simplifying it for her, and Elara would point out a particular collection that needed extra care. There was a natural rhythm to their movements, an unspoken understanding that belied their short acquaintance. Around mid-morning, the rain finally began to ease, the sky lightening to a pale gray. The wind died down, replaced by the soft drip of water from the eaves. "Looks like the worst is over," Liam observed, wiping a stray smudge of dust from his brow. A good sign. It means we can start planning the repairs properly. Thank goodness, Alara breathed, pushing a strand of hair from her face. It feels like the world has been holding its breath. It has, Liam agreed, his gaze settling on her. But now we can breathe again. He paused, then said, ready to face the town council, and then perhaps my humble abode. Alara took a deep breath, a feeling of both nervousness and excitement swirling within her. As ready as I'll ever be. She met his gaze, a soft, trusting smile on her face. Lead the way, Liam. He smiled back, a warmth spreading through his chest. My pleasure, Alara. My absolute pleasure. And as they stepped out of the library, leaving its quiet warmth behind for the practicalities of the day, a new chapter began to unfold, not just for the library, but for the two hearts that had found unexpected solace within its storm-swept walls. The adventure of cohabitation, of shared mornings and whispered words, was just about to begin. And as they stepped out of the library, leaving its quiet warmth behind for the practicalities of the day, a new chapter began to unfold, not just for the library, but for the two hearts that had found unexpected solace within its storm-swept walls. The adventure of cohabitation, of shared mornings and whispered words, was just about to begin. The meeting with the town council was, as expected, a bureaucratic affair. Liam, however, proved to be an invaluable asset. He spoke with calm authority, explaining the structural damage in precise technical terms that left no room for doubt or delay. He presented a clear timeline for the repairs, emphasizing the need for immediate action to prevent further deterioration, but also the importance of proper, unhurried craftsmanship. Alara, standing beside him, felt a surge of pride and gratitude as he deftly navigated the council's questions and concerns. He was not just an architect, he was a problem solver, a protector, and in that moment, a steadfast ally. By the time they emerged from the town hall, the mid-morning sun had finally broken through the clouds, casting a tentative warmth over the wet streets. The air smelled fresh and clean, scrubbed by the storm. Well, that was efficient, Alara said a little breathlessly. You have a knack for getting things done, Liam? He gave a modest shrug. Just speaking their language. Bureaucrats respect precision and a good estimate. He winked. But now for the more important task, getting you settled. They drove in Liam's sturdy SUV through the quiet, tree-lined streets of the town. Alara had expected his home to be impressive, given his profession, but she was still unprepared for the modern elegance of his house. It was a sleek, contemporary design, all clean lines and expansive windows, nestled into a small hill overlooking a wooded area. It looked like something out of an architectural magazine, yet it didn't feel cold or uninviting. Wow, Alara breathed, stepping out of the car. It's beautiful, Liam. He smiled, a genuine pleasure lighting up his face. Thank you. It's my own design, actually, my first big project after starting my firm. He led her up a short path to the front door, which swung open to reveal a bright, airy interior. Sunlight streamed in through large windows, illuminating polished concrete floors and minimalist furniture. Despite the modern aesthetic, there were touches of warmth, a plush rug, a few vibrant pieces of art, and, to Alara's delight, several overflowing bookshelves lining one wall of the living area. Come in, make yourself at home, Liam said, his voice soft. He gestured to the open-plan living space. The kitchen's through there, dining area to the left. Your room will be the guest room upstairs with its own bathroom. I hope you'll be comfortable. Alara stepped inside, her library-honed senses taking in every detail. The house smelled faintly of citrus and a subtle, earthy scent she couldn't quite place, but found appealing. It was impeccably clean, yet felt lived in, not sterile. She moved towards the bookshelves, her fingers instinctively reaching for a spine. You weren't kidding, she murmured, pulling out a hefty volume on the history of Gothic architecture. You have quite the collection yourself. Liam chuckled, watching her. A working library, mostly. But there are a few novels in there, too. I confess, I'm rather partial to historical nonfiction. Learning about the stories behind the structures. Fascinating, Alara agreed, her eyes sparkling. She felt a wave of ease wash over her. This wasn't just a place to stay. It was a home with its own stories, its own quiet charm. "Let me show you to your room," Liam offered, leading her up a floating staircase with dark wood treads. The guest room was spacious, with a large, comfortable bed, a small desk, and another window overlooking the woods. The ensuite bathroom was equally modern, with gleaming fixtures and soft towels. "This is lovely, Liam," Alara said, turning to him. "More than I could have asked for. Thank you, truly." "My pleasure," he repeated, his gaze softening as he looked at her. "I want you to be comfortable here, Alara. Consider it your sanctuary for as long as you need it." He left her to unpack, giving her a moment of privacy. Alara opened her small overnight bag, carefully hanging her few blouses in the empty closet. She placed her toiletries on the bathroom counter, and then, with a small sigh of contentment, pulled out the one book she had deemed essential, a well-loved copy of Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. She set it on the bedside table, a familiar comfort in unfamiliar surroundings. After a few minutes, she ventured back downstairs. Liam was in the kitchen, humming softly as he rummaged through a cupboard. "Everything all right?" she asked. He turned, a sheepish grin on his face. "Perfect. Just trying to figure out what a hungry architect eats for lunch when he's been deprived of his usual routine. My usual go-to is a sandwich from the deli near the office, but that's not really an option today." Alara smiled. "Well, if you're open to suggestions, I could make us something. I saw you have eggs, some bread, and a few vegetables. I could whip up some omelets." Liam's eyes widened. "You do that. I wasn't trying to put you to work, Alara." "Nonsense," she waved a dismissive hand. "You've taken me in, given me a beautiful room, and are dealing with the town council on my behalf. The least I can do is contribute. Besides, I enjoy cooking." And so, for the next hour, the modern kitchen, usually so quiet, filled with the gentle sounds of Alara chopping vegetables, the sizzle of eggs in a pan, and the comfortable hum of conversation. Liam watched her, fascinated by her calm efficiency, the way she moved with purpose and grace. She looked entirely at home, even in his sleek, unfamiliar kitchen. They ate their omelets at a small kitchen island, the sunlight streaming in, highlighting the steam rising from their plates. The food was simple, yet delicious, made with care. "This is incredible, Alara," Liam declared, savoring each bite. "You weren't kidding about your culinary skills. My shepherd's pie expectations have officially been set very high." Alara laughed, a blush rising to her cheeks. "I'm glad you approve. It's nice to cook for someone else for a change." "Nice to I be cooked for a change," Liam retorted, his gaze warm. "Living alone, I tend to default to takeout or very simple meals. It's a treat." Their conversation flowed easily, moving from the practicalities of the library repairs to more personal topics. Alara asked about his early architectural projects, the challenges he faced starting his own firm. He, in turn, asked about her journey to becoming a librarian, her favorite literary discoveries. They found common ground in their shared passion for creating and curating, for bringing order and beauty to the world, each in their own way. The afternoon passed in a comfortable haze. Liam showed her some of his design sketches, explaining the thought process behind a particular building. Alara found herself utterly captivated, seeing not just lines on paper, but the vision and passion behind them. She, in turn, shared anecdotes about her most cherished books, reading aloud a particularly poignant passage from a forgotten poet, her voice soft and melodious. As the afternoon light began to mellow, casting long shadows across the living room, Liam suggested, "How about a walk? The rain has stopped, and it's a beautiful day now. There's a path through the woods behind the house." "I'd love that," Alara agreed, eager to explore the natural beauty surrounding his home. They pulled on jackets and walked out into the crisp, clean air. The woods were alive with the sounds of dripping water and birdsong. The path, still damp, was carpeted with fallen leaves, their colors muted by the recent rain. Liam pointed out different trees, explaining their properties, their growth patterns, and how he incorporated natural elements into his designs. Alara listened, enchanted, occasionally stopping to admire a particularly striking fern or a cluster of wild mushrooms. They walked in a comfortable silence for a while, the only sounds the crunch of their footsteps and the whisper of the wind through the trees. Alara felt a profound sense of peace settle over her. Being here with Liam surrounded by nature felt incredibly grounding, incredibly right. You know, Liam said eventually, breaking the quiet, I usually walk this path alone. It's where I come to think, to clear my head, to find inspiration for new projects. He glanced at her, a soft smile on his face. It's nice to share it. You bring a different kind of quiet to it, Ilara, a thoughtful one. Ilara's heart fluttered. And you bring a different perspective, Liam. I'm usually lost in the world of books. It's good to be reminded of the beauty of the natural world and how it inspires the built one. As they rounded a bend in the path, they came upon a small clearing overlooking a stream. A fallen log offered a natural bench. They sat down, side by side, listening to the gentle gurgle of the water. It's beautiful here, Ilara said, her voice a soft murmur. It is, Liam agreed, his gaze fixed on the stream, but his awareness very much on her. He felt a strong, protective instinct rise within him, a desire to keep this peace, this fragile connection, safe. He found himself wanting to reach out to take her hand, but he held back, not wanting to rush or disrupt the delicate balance they had found. I've enjoyed today, Liam, Ilara confessed, turning to look at him. Her eyes, usually so guarded, held a genuine warmth, an openness that touched him deeply. More than I can say. Thank you for making me feel so welcome. The pleasure has been entirely mine, Ilara, he replied, his voice low and sincere. Truly, this house, it's felt a bit empty lately. It's good to have it filled with your laughter and the smell of your cooking, and your stories. Ilara's cheeks flushed again, a beautiful rose hue that made her eyes sparkle even brighter. She looked away for a moment, then back at him. It's funny, she began, her voice a little hesitant. I've always thought of my life as being quite fulfilling, surrounded by books, by knowledge, but today feels different, like a new story has just begun, and I'm eager to see where it leads. Liam's heart skipped a beat. He knew exactly what she meant. He felt it too, this quiet anticipation, this burgeoning hope. Me too, Ilara, he said, his voice husky. Me too. They sat there for a while longer, the silence between them no longer merely comfortable, but charged with unspoken emotions. The sun began its slow descent, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, a promise of a beautiful evening to come. Ilara felt a gentle hand on her arm, and then Liam stood, offering his hand to help her up. His touch was firm, warm, and sent a shiver of delight through her. The air's getting a bit chilly, he said, his voice soft. How about we head back? I was thinking of making some pasta for dinner, if you're up for another culinary adventure, or perhaps a movie? Ilara smiled, her heart feeling lighter than it had in years. Pasta sounds wonderful, Liam. And a movie, perhaps, as long as it's not too scary. I prefer my drama in books. Liam chuckled, a deep rumbling sound that resonated in her chest. No scary movies, I promise. Just good food, good company, and maybe a quiet evening of conversation. He squeezed her hand gently before letting go as they started back along the path. As they walked through the deepening twilight, Ilara felt a profound sense of gratitude. The storm had brought chaos, but it had also brought Liam. And in his quiet strength, his thoughtful generosity, and his genuine warmth, she found herself opening up to a possibility she hadn't dared to dream of before. The library might be under repair, but her heart, she realized, was being beautifully rebuilt. Tonight in Liam's home, with the promise of shared meals and whispered conversations, she knew, with a certainty that settled deep in her soul, that this new story was just beginning, and she couldn't wait to turn the page. That first evening unfolded like a cherished novel, each chapter revealing new depths. Liam, a surprisingly skilled cook, had prepared a simple yet exquisite pasta dish, and as they shared it, surrounded by the soft glow of lamplight, Evelyn found herself talking more freely than she had in years. She spoke of her childhood spent lost in stories, of the quiet joy of organizing knowledge, of the particular scent of old books that felt like home. Liam listened with an attentiveness that was both soothing and captivating, sharing anecdotes from his own life, his work, his dreams of building things that lasted. He had a gentle way of asking questions that invited deeper answers, and Evelyn discovered a quiet strength beneath his easy smile, a steadfastness that made her feel safe. Weeks blossomed into months, each day weaving their lives more tightly together. They explored the town's hidden gems, shared quiet mornings over coffee and books, and cheered each other on through their respective projects. Evelyn meticulously planning the library's grand reopening, Liam overseeing the final touches. He learned to appreciate the subtle humor in literary classics she lent him, and she found herself fascinated by the blueprints and structural integrity he explained with such passion. Evelyn's once perfectly ordered world, meticulously curated within the confines of her library, expanded to embrace the beautiful, slightly unpredictable chaos of shared laughter, spontaneous outings, and the comforting rhythm of another heart beating beside hers. She felt lighter, more vibrant, as if a long-closed window in her soul had finally been flung open to let in the sun. The day the library reopened was a triumph. The scent of freshly polished wood mingled with the familiar aroma of paper and ink, and the shelves gleamed, meticulously restocked. Evelyn stood at the entrance, a proud smile gracing her lips, greeting familiar faces and new patrons alike. And then she saw Liam, standing a little to the side, a bouquet of wildflowers in his hand, his eyes shining with pride as he watched her. In that moment, surrounded by the books she loved, she knew that her sanctuary was complete, not just because the repairs were done, but because she had found someone who understood her world and had invited her into his. Later that evening, back in the quiet comfort of his home, they sat together on the sofa, the wildflowers between them on the coffee table. He took her hand, his thumb tracing gentle circles on her skin. "Evelyn," he began, his voice soft, "I never imagined I'd meet someone who loved stories as much as you do, or who would make me feel like your story is the best one yet." Evelyn's heart swelled. She leaned her head on his shoulder, feeling the steady beat of his heart. "Liam," she whispered, "you rebuilt more than just the library for me. You rebuilt my belief in happy endings." He chuckled softly, tightening his grip on her hand. "Then let's keep turning the pages, my love. A lifetime of chapters just for us." And as the last light faded outside, casting the room in a gentle twilight, Evelyn knew, with a comforting certainty, that her greatest adventure had just begun, and it was a story she would cherish forever.